Interested in short stories for children? Then why not read Curious Creatures and Fantastic Fables on Amazon by Mike Pierce? Here are some examples of the contents of some stories. The little seed remained just under a thin layer of soil. It thought most certainly it would never see daylight. It would just rot, or be eaten by some passing insect or animal. It just sat there and cried. It was packed with its little bundle of nutrients to grow above the surface. But without water it would not survive. Days passed and it was moving closer to Christmas. It could hear the church bells ringing out every Sunday, and wondered if it would hear the Christmas bell and even better the joyous bell on New Year's Eve. It wanted, like its mother, to hear the bells for many years to come, but it still lay there in the dark, silent earth. He had tried to climb the yew tree many times before, but could not get a good grip. But now he saw that on this side the ivy was very thick. He decided to have another attempt. As he climbed up he could see a big spider sitting in a fork. It raised its two front legs, and then leapt at him. Fortunately it missed him and fell down the side of a tree. At last he reached the top and found he was in another land anchored by this tree to the sky. The Punch and Judy man looked on the shelf for the baby but could not find it anywhere. He looked on the floor, and even stuck his head out of the back of the tent. He turned the music on, took off Mr. Punch from his hands and stepped outside hoping it was next to the tent, but it wasn't. How could he continue? Mr. Punch usually was given the baby, turns it upside down and sits on it saying he is just babysitting. Strange to find an elephant here, he said. What are those spikes sticking out of your back? Pins, said the elephant. Pins, do you need any? The fakir's eyes glowed. Oh my, he said, and jumped for joy. I can make a new bed and people won't shout at me anymore. He gave the elephant a big hug. Well, as big as you can for an elephant, and took 40 pins out of its back. He reached into a bag and gave the elephant a small ruby. All around them on the ground were hundreds of huge, orange, starfish, who had been swept into the cave during a storm. As the tide came in, the starfish began to be active, moving their arms and tiny feet over the rocks. They seemed to be talking to one another. At the base of the rock, several starfish started holding arms. The children had never seen this before. In my bucket I have a crab. I cannot pick it out, or it will grab my finger, bite and squeeze it too. And I would shout and scream at you, next to a light bulb on the wall in an underground tunnel. In London a little family of hairy mites were born. One of the mites was so hairy that his brothers and sisters called him Hairy Fred. One day Fred climbed into a large lump of dust, and as a train came by was blown through a window into a carriage. He landed on a window ledge and crawled unseen along the edge of a poster and went to sleep. Every day the small boy would sit next to large puddles for hours on end, mesmerized by the ripples and little waves that he created with his stick. The other children in his village didn't understand why he spent so much time poking at the water with his stick. They thought it was boring and pointless, and would often throw harmful comments at him, but he ignored them, and just carried on poking away. In a little village near the sea, lived an old sea captain. Whenever he walked around the village, he would shout, "Shiver me timbers," much to the surprise of onlookers. Visitors stopped to hear him, and he became quite a character for the locals. Even more amusing was that when he shouted, his wooden leg would begin to shake and he would twirl around and stamp his leg down hard on the ground until it stopped shaking. This book, Curious Creatures and Fantastic Fables, has a huge number of stories for children. Buy it today. See also the other books for children on Amazon.